One audience, two speeches, two totally different responses. Mitt Romney faced a crowd at the NAACP convention in Houston that was frigid, indeed hostile, while Vice President Biden faced the same crowd today, receiving a hero's welcome and was barely allowed to leave. The loudest jeers for Romney came when he mentioned his desire to get rid of Obamacare. But once he was safely back in the comforts of his own circle of supporters last night, he claimed to take pride in the boos he received, telling the crowd at a fundraiser in Montana, and I quote, "If they want more stuff from the government, tell them to go vote for the other guy. More free stuff. But don't forget, nothing is really free." Joe Biden, on the other hand, wishes he could have a crowd like this every day, taking the convention stage to rousing applause. The vice president then used his speech to discuss the vast differences between Romney's vision for the future of the country and the president's vision. Proving the audience was even-handed, the vice president got some boos too, but only when they heard he was leaving. Joining me now is GOP strategist and author of The Language of Trust, Michael Maslansky, and political reporter Joe Williams. Michael, let me begin with you. Is it fair to say that Mitt Romney's speech really wasn't even directed at the audience in that convention hall? He was speaking to very different voters than those who were listening to him.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I think if you watch the whole speech, aside from the two times that he was booed for mentioning Obama, it was actually a very measured, very thoughtful, very open speech about how he could benefit the African-American community. I think there were benefits to how this played out in the broader community, but I think he was actually there to talk to the African-American community. If he could move them even a little, to make them a little feel like he was a little less bad, maybe motivate them a little less to go out and really rally people in favor of Obama, that's a win, because Obama needs the base to come out. If Romney isn't the enemy, maybe they won't come out as much.
Okay, but Joe, let me ask you this question. As a political consultant, be dispassionate here. If you or anybody had crafted that speech for that audience, don't you think you knew there were going to be boos? And if there are going to be boos, that was going to be the media outtake that the entire country would see?
Well, and if he was going to go there to reach out, he either needs to fire his speechwriter or hire a whole new consulting team, because the takeaway, by and large, was that it was a bit condescending, a little insulting. I mean, Michael's right that the bulk part of the speech was fairly measured, but, I mean, nobody's going to remember that part because they're only going to focus on Obamacare. I can do more for the African-American community, and if you want somebody who's going to do more than President Barack Obama, your hero, your icon, you're looking at him. I mean, that speech was almost calculated to rub people the wrong way, it seems. I mean, I have no access to the Romney inner circle, but certainly there was no talk about reaching out. There was no talk about his father's, well, there was some talk, but no extensive talk about his father's long legacy, no rope line afterwards. There was barely an effort to try to connect with the audience.
Michael's jumping in here.
I think if you look at the totality of the speech, there were two mentions of Obama that took a sum total of about 15 seconds, and the rest was about extending a hand to the African-American community. It was about the philosophy of governing that Romney believes in, which is about things that will bring more equal opportunity, that will raise up all families, not just African-American families and not just white families. I mean, it was a very open and welcoming speech.
But we're not talking about that part of it. We're talking about the part where he got booed. We're talking about the part where it was very kind of a polite reception, but certainly not anything overwhelming or enthusiastic. And recall, George Bush gave a very warm speech before the NAACP. So did John McCain in 2008. And in 2004, Ken Millman, the president of the Republican National Committee, was very much talking about, you give us a chance, we'll give you a choice. That was his mantra. We're way far from those days when you have a candidate coming there and not getting that kind of warm reception and not even trying to reach out beyond certain boxes that he had to check to get through the speech.
Look, let me also add this, not to pile on, Michael, but the language he used about the Health Care Reform Act was edgy and was condescending, to use Joe's word. It was not an explanatory moment in the speech where he said, let me explain to you why I disagree with you, and I know we disagree, but understand I share your values, and here's what I want to do. Nor, and this I think is even a bit crasser on his part, not a single word about the voter ID laws. Those voter ID laws have been the talk of the NAACP convention. They are the litmus test right now by which many people are being measured. This is, many people think, I agree, voter suppression. Nothing about that. I think that would have been a mechanism by which he could have said, let me explain what we're doing, but he didn't.
So we're talking about a candidate who's been accused of pandering. And here he comes to an arena and he doesn't pander. And he gets criticized for it.
I beg to differ about that. It's not really pandering. It's not really pandering if you talk about some issues in a very respectful manner, or if you don't go there with sort of an abrasive, hostile intent. I mean, pandering is one thing. Pandering is saying something that they want to hear.
But
the
Joe,
difference between pandering and what a speech like John McCain or George Bush gave is trying to reach common ground. I mean, there's a difference between pandering and common ground. Common ground means I come from a religion that a lot of people have misunderstood, and I know that your issues have been misunderstood. I understand where you're coming from. I would like to make your lives better. We didn't hear a whole lot of that, especially once we got to the Obamacare part, and once we got to the if you want a president who's going to make things better, you're looking at him.
All right.
I mean, that's
Michael's dying to get in here.
He made one big mistake.
Okay.
He trusted the media to cover the speech the way he intended.
I'm smiling.
And that was,
Michael, I'm smiling because nobody who's been in politics ever would make that mistake.
But that's fair enough, and that's a big mistake. But if you take out those two words, those two references to Obama, I would disagree with almost everything that Joe said. It was respectful, it was inclusive, it was thoughtful, it was reaching out to the African-American community.
Here's the thing. You said that this was an instance where he didn't pander. I would disagree with you. I would say he was pandering, but not to the audience that was in the hall. He was pandering knowing full well that the boos would become the image of the speech. That would play very well among certain demographics, swing voters whom he desperately needs to carry Ohio, Virginia, Pennsylvania. And I think maybe it's good politics, maybe not. It's not the politics I would like to see, but I think it was pandering of a different sort. Let's pivot here for a minute. NAACP convention is something we got to put behind us for a moment. Bain Capital, when was he there? Mitt Romney playing defense on that. Of course, what he has said, he said very publicly, if you're playing defense, then you're losing. I don't want to play defense. Then he put up a TV ad that does nothing but play defense and accuses the Obama campaign of misrepresenting on this issue of the Bain claims. But he's playing defense, and he's losing this battle. Am I right, Michael? He's not going to win this debate about whether he was at Bain or not.
I don't think he's going to win. I don't think it's something that he should be fighting. He should be taking the positive elements of his record as a job creator, as a successful businessman, and touting those things. And his response, trying to paint Obama as a liar, it's not a narrative that people are going to buy into. And fundamentally, elections are about narratives. You have to pick the ones that are going to help you. You have to attack on the ones that are really going to hurt your opponent. And this is a place where he's losing on both the positive and the negative side.
Joe, your response to that?
Well, I think Michael's got a point to a degree. It's going to be very, very difficult to run away from this one, though, because not only is it a defensive maneuver that, in my opinion, he probably had to take because he was getting a lot of heat from his party insiders. I think one of them called an armchair quarterback, some of the people who have been criticizing the Romney campaign for not doing enough to respond. You have to respond, but you don't necessarily have to say, hey, everybody, I'm not going to respond to this, and then do the response. So I think that part of it was a bit of a muddled message, but I do think that he has to find a way to put the Bain Capital issue to rest, especially the timeline. Either fess up and say, look, I'm proud of my success. We didn't depart exactly as I said we did, but we did make some money. We did do some good things. Or just completely let the narrative get run away from him and have a hard time trying to beat it down or bring it under control.
Look, it seems to me that Mitt Romney played consultant saying you shouldn't be playing defense. Then, of course, he immediately started playing defense. Then he put up an ad that was ineffective. And the entire time he has lost track of what should be, Michael, as you point out, his one narrative that might put him into contention in this race, which is that he understands the economy. I don't buy it, but that's his narrative. So it seems to me he's just striking out left, right, and center. Fire the team, bring in a new speechwriter. Michael, maybe he should hire you. I don't know what the game is here, but he's not going to win doing what he's doing right now. GOP strategist and author of The Language of Trust, Michael Maslansky. Political reporter Joe Williams, one of our favorite guests. Thank you both for your time tonight.